everybody, and welcome to today's Intelligent Property Investor Masterclass. Bit of a mixed bag this week, but just a bit of a reminder that if you're listening to me on any of the podcast forums like Spotify or on iTunes, really want you to go across my website at some stage and have a look at all of the slides that I've got there for you. You can also, listen to the full presentation with all of the slides on my YouTube channel as well, which is I Love Real Estate TV for my website and I Love Real Estate YouTube channel. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about this week? Do you want to save 10 grand a year? Well, stay at home, apparently. Why Aussie businesses are very worried about electricity prices. And even though in the real-time activity of what's happening in the economy, we're actually doing really quite well. Why the commodity prices are still boosting the Aussie economy, and what stronger credit growth means for the outlook. That's actually super important. So I'll talk about that shortly, about the property market and other things. Why workers and bosses are feuding over work from home. Well, not quite, but there's some interesting surveys there as to, what that actually means and what happened over the last few years about work from home and the attitudes of employers and employees. And some statistics have come out saying that basically work from home saves the individual $10,000 a year, which is kind of like a pay rise. Provided you are, I'm going to be looking here about Adelaide and how the fact that in Adelaide they've doubled their prices on a particular property. I'm going to show you, provided you don't have radioactive grass. What's that all about? Tell you soon. All right. Now, there's electrical storm clouds are over the Australian economy. One of the things that is causing a bit of a lull in the economy right now, particularly from a consumer spending perspective, but also from a business to some extent, is the fact that we have very high electricity prices. So the real-time economy indicators are holding up really well. You know, our underlying basis of the economy is pretty jolly good. But as we said, this rising electricity prices has people a little bit worried, particularly businesses. Now, in the chart, you can see there, you can see that business confidence is down right across the board. So the red one is gives you an indication as to where we are this year, as at June this year. And the bluey coloured one shows you where we were June last year. So a lot more confident last year than we are this year, because we're starting to see these electricity prices and what they're doing for businesses in particular. So this gives you a look from ANZ, or Roy Morgan, sorry, looking at what how businesses see their confidence at the moment. And look, we've dropped below the baseline. We're not as low as we were when COVID hit, or even the second lockdown, or anywhere near it for that matter. But we did have some pretty high confidence levels go back 12 months. And that's really what these figures are showing. And a lot of that is due to, wage prices actually going up. And electricity prices going up, because they're the main things, depending on the industry. I mean, some industries are very fuel focused. Well, guess what? Fuel's going up as well. And it's really about the flow on effect of that and how they can pass on those higher costs to the consumer, and whether the consumer will actually bear it. Because that's the bottom line of inflation at the moment. Which, do you know, it's one of the most Googled words at the moment, or it's certainly the amount of Googling that we're doing of inflation has gone up considerably in the last few months. But when you look at it, all of the inflation going up, we have got wage increase, but we haven't had wage increases for 5-6 years. So that needed to happen. We've had very low interest rates. Of course, they're going to go up. The war in Ukraine and Russia not being able to export oil, particularly to the European countries, which is really where most of their oil went, that has a flow-on effect to the Middle East going, woo, well, we're going to put our prices up, aren't we? So the crude oil prices have all gone up, and that's filtered through to everything, because it affects freight. It affects every ship that goes around the country, around the world. It affects every aeroplane that goes around the world. It affects every truck, every train, every tractor. You know, that flow-on effect is quite significant. And these are all of the primary costs of business, whether it be agricultural business or whether it be, you know, making widgets. The flow-on effect is definitely there. So that's why the confidence is down, because they don't know where it's going to go. And then we've got the green movement, you know, shutting down coal-fired power stations, because we've got plenty of power if we wanted to use coal. But of course, there's the flip side of that on the green movement. And, you know, the fact is that we are then in this predicament of fuel prices being very, very high. This was actually put out by Roy Morgan's CEO, who is Michelle Levine. And she says, clearly the rising prices of different forms of energy, as well as questions about reliability of energy supply, is a large concern for businesses that rely on consistent supplies of affordable energy to maintain a profitable business. And the new government is really facing some challenges around this. You know, places like Western Australia, for instance, they've got their own contingency plans there. They've got a lot of oil production to themselves. Whereas the East Coast, look at those prices there. I mean, look at the price of electricity. This is electricity, sorry, not fuel. And you see how much it's actually gone up on the Eastern Seaboard. So, you know, Queensland could do the same. New South Wales could do the same. Victoria even could do the same if we were to put it into, you know, producing electricity by coal. But we haven't done that, and we're closing all of those down over time, at least. So that means, of course, we're going to have an energy crisis until we replace them with something that is greener, but just as efficient, we'll say, as the coal-fired power stations. So, look, I'm not saying, you know, we should or we shouldn't. What I'm saying is this is the reality. This is the fact. And that's having a flow-on effect into everything. And I don't think a lot of people don't realize the flow-on effect of a lot of these, you know, decisions that are being made. Anyway, get off that. The manufacturing industry, you can see here now, this is a confidence within just manufacturing. And you'd think manufacturing would be one of the industries that you know, everybody it would be affected by, because there's a lot of machines to run and all that kind of stuff. In actual fact, the confidence here is quite good compared to where it has been previously. Now, yes, it's down a little bit on where we were, you know, earlier in the year, but it's still up compared to where we were pre-COVID. And then when COVID happened, you know, and we're really going back to some times back in 2018, 2017, when things were ticking along quite okay. And that's kind of the range that we're in at the moment from a manufacturing perspective. Now, a lot of the Australian buoyancy is actually coming from our commodities. I mean, we're a commodity-based country. And so prices are up, you know, even agricultural prices are up. But our coal, our iron ore, our tin, our gas, all the other stuff, the prices are up. So that's really what's giving us the boost. And that's why our Australian dollar is quite strong at the moment. And that's flowing over. So if you look at the underlying credit of where we're at, you know, the credit survey across the private sector, we're actually pretty good, you know, where we're sitting there. We're actually quite buoyant. So the underlying economy is actually doing really well. But we do have this crisis of confidence, I like to call it. Now, that's a crisis of confidence for the business sector to some extent, but more so from the private sector, because they're the ones that are listening to all the mainstream media, and they're the ones that are running scared, which is ridiculous because, you know, when you look at the overarching point at where we're at in the cycle, we've still got some growth to be had before we go into a correction. Because if you look at the demand and supply, we are still dramatically undersupplied. So, you know, we've got a couple of years at least ahead of us that are going to be pretty jolly good. And I think we need to remember that when we start to look at, you know, what we need to be doing and what deals we need to do. Because if you're snoozing right now, you're losing. If you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for a crash, you are going to lose, because it's going to be a lot further up before the market corrects, because we've got to get into an oversupply before the market will take any kind of long-term correction. And that's just not happening. You look where rents are going. Rents clearly indicate that we don't have enough supply. We haven't got enough housing, and the approvals are coming down because of the cost of construction going up. So, there's a much bigger picture there, and now is actually the time to get confident and to be able to negotiate deals. I'm actually really excited about the market where we're at the moment, because as I said, most of the country's snoozing. And you've got more opportunity to cherry pick the deals. It's not just jump in quick before I'm going to miss out. All the FOMO stuff has gone out of the market, which is good. The market will settle for a bit. And then you watch and see what happens when we open up immigration and we get another 200,000 people come into this country, and we will. And that's going to make our housing shortage at the moment look like minuscule. So let's get on to the next point. Next point I want to talk about is the fact that, the headlines are saying that there's a feud between the workers and the employers. Not really. It's just the work from home process that came into play, obviously, with COVID and everything else, has meant that some people really, really like it. And because there's lower costs, you haven't got the fuel costs, which are obviously going up, the commuting time, productivity, all of those things. So there's been a fair bit of an analysis now done on this whole work from home movement. Now, I don't know whether you've been listening to me for very long, but if we go back a few years, I'm talking 5 years, I did this home study program, and I did a tour around the country and things. I talked about the next 10 years, and we talked about things like work from home and what it would do to outer rim suburbs and semi-regional areas and things like that around bigger cities. And we talked about commute times, electric cars, and all of these other things, which back then were kind of like pie in the sky stuff. Well, I tell you what, most of the stuff we spoke about then is now happening right now as we speak. And everything we talked about as to how that would affect property obviously has come to pass. So it's a bit of a prediction we had back then. So there was a survey done recently by Roy Morgan and the Melbourne Institute, and it shows that 88% of Australian workers would like to work at least part of the week at home, and 60% would like some kind of hybrid version or thereabouts. However, only 49% of workers reported that their employers were agreeable to some kind of hybrid, and employers agreeing on the number of hours spent working from home as only 37%. So this chart really shows you that. It shows you how, the blue one is the employer permits larger portions to be working from home. And, in my own circumstances, it's a lot of our broader community workers actually work from home, and it works quite well. Then you've got your, those that are going into agreements and things like that. And then you've got those who want to work from home, but their employer is not permitting it. So it's just a bit of a, it's across the board basically, but it's a bit of a trend. And I think with all of the enterprise bargaining and people moving from this job to that job, and our massive shortage in labour has meant that there's going to be more working from home if you want it, because we've got such shortage from labour forces in a lot of industries that the employers will actually bend for it. It's not good for some of the inner cities where they want the people back in their offices. Women particularly would like to work from home more so than the guys. But I think that's been a trend for a long, long time now. This chart here really shows you the variance across the board, where the experience of working from home, most people, 20% said that was hugely better. 22% said it was sustainably better. 19% said it was better. About the same was 25%. Worse was nearly 7%, 3% substantially worse, and then hugely worse was only 3% as well. So most people thought there was some advantages in actually working from home. How working from home has saved the average Australian $10,000. So the Financial Review's come out and done this big survey, and they've worked out that the average Australian working from home will save around $200 a week. Now they're actually reporting on it. It was actually, the whole survey was a worldwide survey that they did of 1,042 28,000 full-time workers, 1,042 Australians were included in the survey, and the average saving, I assume it's across the Western world, was around $216 a week. So that's pretty good, because putting away $200 a week, that's like an extra pay rise of $10,000 a week, or $10,000 a year, or $216 a week. So that was kind of interesting. Where the big savings were of course fuel, automotive fuel, transport. So 12.5% on transport, 37% on fuel. Private motoring was another 13%, motor vehicles was 3%, spare parts and other bits and pieces, you can see the figures there, 4.5% there, and maintenance and repairs on the vehicles, 4.5%. So fuel was the biggest saving, and fuel is one of the things that we're suffering with right now. Anyway, that was a bit of fun. The other bit of fun that I want to share with you this week is this one: how to double your money in Adelaide. Well, we all know that Adelaide's done really well and the prices have come up. It's, but you've got to look at it specifically. And the fact is that for nearly 10 years, Adelaide did nothing. Adelaide was very slow, very stable market. So it's had this massive surge. But this particular article on the ABC was talking about Chernobyl green lawn, which is apparently a variety of fake grass, or can be, in real estate for Adelaide. How sparks questions about truth in advertising. Let's have a look at it. Are you ready? Check this out. That's what was done to this house. So that was the front yard. There's the backyard. So the agent, whose name was Sam Swami, I think his name was, which is an interesting name for somebody. He went out and decided that the brown lawn didn't look so good, so he thought he would fix it. There he is, Sam Swami. But when you look at some of the comments on places like Reddit and things like that, it says, that's the new strain of grass called Chernobyl. You should see it at night time. So they're indicating that it might glow. They basically did a very bad job of Microsoft Paint, and that was the result. But the fact is that same house, it's in one of the lower socioeconomic suburbs of Adelaide. They were selling it between $340,000 and $350,000, but it was sold only a year ago for $183,000, which was about the same price that it sold for 12 years ago, back in 2010. So as I said, the market there has been very flat for a long time. It's just now had a massive spurt catch up. Don't think that's going to happen into the future. All right. So that gives you the annual change in rents. I thought I'd just throw that in because we've got, because rental prices are going up, that's bringing a lot of activity into the property market. It's keeping the market buoyant. It's keeping the demand nice and high. And as a consequence, we've still got more to come. We are still dramatically undersupplied. So now's not the time to be sitting snoozing, as I said, because if you snooze at the moment, you're going to lose. And but that is what the masses are doing because they're fearful. They're fearful about inflation. They're fearful about interest rates and all of those things, which if you're an investor, these higher rental returns that you're getting are actually compensating for any of the higher interest that you may be paying. And the inflationary effect, well, guess where a lot of the inflation is actually coming from? It's because of the increase in housing. And we open the doors to 200,000 odd people coming in. Well, guess what? There's going to be more upward pressure on housing, and we're already undersupplied. And I could go on and on about this topic. So basically wake up, stop snoring, and, really start to get some well-placed properties. I've got a little quote for the week, and it says, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible." So look, you need some help along here because there is some crap in the market. So to assist you with that, I've set aside a few appointment times with one of my advisors. It's called the Real Estate Breakthrough Sessions. Come armed with what you want, what your goals, dreams, aspirations are. And one of my advisors will spend some time with you and work you through your goals, work through, what kind of outcomes you might be able to achieve and where to go to from here. All you've got to do for those listening to me is go to iloverealestate.tv /questions / make sure you put in that last / and there's some appointment times there and you can pick one that suits you and have a bit of a chat session as to where you're at, what you want to achieve, and how you can go about getting that. So look, that's it from me this week. I hope you've enjoyed the little chat, and I'll be back again to talk to you very, very soon. So bye for now.